Hello, I'm Sultana Ali coming to you from the LG Digital Studio at Georgetown University School of Continuing Studies. In focus today, corporate social responsibility. I'm joined by Stephanie Bosh, Vice President of Communications and Corporate Responsibility for JPMorgan Chase, to discuss the role of corporate social responsibility in managing reputation. Stephanie, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, CSR, as it's commonly called, another term for corporate social responsibility, is often referred to as the triple bottom line. What is JPMorgan Chase's view of CSR, and how is the company's approach unique?
It's a good question, and it varies wildly from organization to organization, but I think at JPMorgan Chase, our approach is actually fairly simple, and it's that you do what you're good at. If you look at the kind of corporate responsibility initiatives that any company takes on, just look at what their business does, and you're going to see some parallels. So when it comes to JPMorgan Chase, I think that's going to be things like job creation. That's going to be things like workforce training and small business development, employee engagement. And there's a lot of really good examples of things like that. But in the end, you're really taking the skills and the resources and the expertise of the people in your firm to create economic opportunity for the communities that you work in.
That's a really important point because to make sure that an organization is getting the most out of its CSR program, it really does have to feel authentic. That goes a long way. So what are some ways to effectively convey that intrinsic value, that authenticity and purpose to senior leadership when you're trying to communicate the value of a program?
Sure. I think no matter what role you have in an organization, it's really important to be true to who you are and sort of draw on the experiences that you have in work and in life. And so transparency is really key when you're working on any deliverable. So when you're talking to senior leadership, I think you have to be honest about what's on the table. You have to be honest about your own personal experiences and use your best judgment in giving strategic counsel to the people that you work for. That's
good advice. And you look at a workforce like JPMorgan Chase, you have a lot of diversity in employees and diversity of interests. But when you think about that unifying factor of doing good, that can really bring a workforce together. So do you have any examples of how, whether it's JPMorgan Chase or other corporations, how they might utilize CSR as a tool to really galvanize employees?
Sure. It's interesting because at JPMorgan Chase, we have something like more than 240,000 employees around the globe. So there are several initiatives that the firm takes into consideration when doing exactly what you're talking about. One good example of that is something called the Service Corps. And ever since 2013, I think is when the initiative got started. It's basically a highly competitive program within the firm that draws on the top talent of the company to put them into nonprofit organizations around the country, around the globe, where they can volunteer their time and expertise. And so one good example of that, I think it's something like over 34 projects in cities like Detroit, New Orleans, Johannesburg, South Africa, where just really talented staff are going into these nonprofit partners and using their expertise to help those nonprofits grow. And then when they come back to the firm, the programs last about 3 weeks, they come back to the firm and they're really excited to tell their stories, they feel good about their job, and they draw on the experience that they learned in the field and that they can apply back into their own roles that they were hired to do. And so that's just one example. I think it's really important for any organization to not only use your financial resources, but use your human capital as well. And JPMC certainly has a plethora of talented people to draw upon.
Yeah, clearly. With a workforce that big and people so keyed up on corporate social responsibility, that's a really exciting opportunity for employees to take advantage of and for other companies to really learn from that example. So a lot of students are really interested in going into corporate social responsibility or adding that to their resume because a lot of people who get into PR are really interested in making a difference. What advice would you give for students or for people early in their career that are interested interested in getting involved in CSR or really want to take that on in their career?
The thing I always tell people is to get work experience. I think nothing can replace good work experience and a good attitude. So if you're passionate about what you do, if you know you're interested in the subject matter that you've chosen, and you work really hard, I think that's a really good recipe for success, no matter what career path you actually take. So in the end, I think the advice I give people is do internships, get work experience, do the research, identify somebody that you want to, that you'd like to work for, that is a model for the type of job you'd like to ultimately do someday, and look at their background. There's a lot of different ways that you can get to where you want to go in your career. I think I'm a really good example of that. There's a lot of random different types of experience on my resume, and at the end of the day, there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But in the end, just work hard, do the work, do the research, and be passionate about the issue area, and you're going to be successful.
That's great advice, Stephanie. On that note, I'd just like to thank you for joining us today to talk about corporate social responsibility, which is a really important topic today. And thank you to everyone out there for watching. Stay tuned for more from the LG Digital Studio at Georgetown School of Continuing Studies.